What the fuck is up, everyone? Thralls of Metal back again for another excellent album review. I am Shredlord.
Necrotic Nick.
Today we are excited to bring you the album by Universally Estranged, Dimensions of Deviant Clusters.
I've had some Deviant Clusters in my day. You gotta get a comb in there and get them out.
When I have Deviant Clusters, usually I gotta get my finger up there and really wipe.
Make sure you don't take any hair out with it, though.
Sometimes that's part of the game, my friend.
Sacrifice.
You gotta break a couple eggs to make an omelet.
I don't think we need to talk about omelets and that. This comes out on the 28th of October on Blood Harvest Records. This band formed in 2020 in Houston, Texas. This is their second album overall. I actually went over their first album not too long ago in a Texas death metal, whole states of metal thing. And I even teased that we might be reviewing this, and lo and behold, here we are. Now, in terms of like background information on this band, it's kind of hard to find in terms of just anyone that's involved.
We don't know anything. Let's be honest. We don't know shit.
There's a picture of someone in a hoodie, and I assume that might be the one guy that's involved in this. Maybe the guy that took the picture's involved. I don't know. But as it stands, this is some very strange, cosmically inspired death metal, like technical death metal. It's very odd, but it's also very interesting and very engaging. And that's kind of why I wanted to go over it, because their first album, Reared Up in Spectral Predation, that's a fucking mouthful too, is just this very strange, like kind of atonal, cosmic, strange death metal. This band is definitely rooted in bands like Time Ghoul, Blood Incantation, and I don't know, maybe like Cynic and Gorguts. It's kind of all over the place, but like all over the place in a pretty good way.
This album is filled with mostly death metal, but there is heavy influences of noise.
Yeah?
Cosmic noise. There's some elements of progressive music in spots, which was actually kind of cool and pleasant to listen to. Get out your lighters and spark them joints. And there was even times where, like in the beginning of the album, it felt very early death metal. Yeah. And then towards the end of the album, it felt very, like, not so early death metal. Even some death worship at times.
Yeah. You could say it evolves or mutates. I don't know, something that
I like the term mutate.
Yeah, like cosmic horror, because I think that's where this is latched. The one, like, universal thing on this is no matter what they're playing, there's always some sort of, like, strange cosmic atmosphere, like keys and, like, maybe sounds of like lasers or something.
Yeah, the album even starts off with this kind of weird crackling or something, to the point where it makes you think your speaker's fucking blown. So you have to do a double check, and then you go, no, that's just a sound effect, thank God.
But that goes into the first actual track, because I'm not counting an intro because it's an intro. Psychic Laceration. This song sounds like actually Tomb Mold. Like it kind of has that raw old school death metal sound. Kind of deliberately murky production, big, thick, bottom-heavy guitars, and just huge, cavernous death metal vocals. And it starts off a little bit more focused on that. Kind of just, you know, lays down some solid, kind of gloomy, evil-sounding riffs, like big, deep, Morbid Angel tremolos and shit like that. And then you start noticing the transitions get a little bit more strange, a little bit more off-time, and all of a sudden these little bleeps and sweeps start coming out of the background. Like, what's going on here?
Sir, we got the bleeps, the sweeps, and the creeps. Kudos to any of you old enough to know what the fuck I'm talking about, by the way.
I'm pretty sure we referenced Spaceballs like a fuck ton on here.
I mean, Mel Brooks is a genius. And Spaceballs is one of the funniest movies ever made, let's be honest.
Yeah.
A track that actually caught my attention was the last track, Universally Estranged, which this album is interesting in a way because it has a song that is titled after the album and a song that is titled after the band as well. So I thought that was kind of cool. Universally Estranged starts off with this like crazy push-pull, weird manic time changes, and it gives the song kind of an interesting character to it before it actually kind of just goes back to that good old-fashioned death metal fucking mud stomp, you know, pull you to the grave kind of deal. But I thought stuff like that was a cool way to add some character to the songs and, you know, mix it in with the death metal.
Yeah, the waves of, like, dissonant riffs, like, it's just really atonal, and, like I said, that opening rhythm, I don't even know if it's a rhythm, it just sounds like a continuous drum fill with, like, cymbal accents, but the fact that it's so caustic and dissonant with those, like, cavernous roars in the background, I mean, it's almost kind of Portal-ish. Not like shit your pants fucking scary like most of Portal shit, but like just sort of strange and atonal and more about the atmosphere, but how it pivots over to just like this bottom heavy, like incantation style breakdowns. Like, oh, that's fucking really cool.
Yeah, and even a track like Memory of Death, that was one that I really enjoyed as well. One of my favorites off the album, I would say. It's just really just kind of straightforward. This is a track that, unlike a lot of the other tracks on this album, this one just kind of seems a little bit more focused, a little less experimental, and just kind of down to the brass tacks.
Just delivers solid riffs. It's still very technical, but it's also very catchy. Like, it feels like the most meat and potatoes out of all the songs, but this is like alien meat and mutant potatoes that, I don't know, can get your fucking face pregnant or something like that. I don't know, this band's weird.
Can my face get pregnant?
By a mutant potato, possibly. Ugh. And one of the big surprises on here, and probably one of the most melodic offerings on here, was Corrupted Mind Palace. This song kind of showcased like that proggy element, like kind of all of a sudden, and you're really not expecting it because you've been greeted by just insane riffing and weird time signature changes and spacey atmosphere throughout this entire album. But this song really employs a lot of melody. Like, you hear these like crawling lead melodies. It gets kind of proggy, like Later Death, Cynic, maybe Atheist too. And I don't know, like, it just stood out. Like, it has this very pronounced melodic hook despite being very chaotic and strange.
When we actually heard the song, I was thinking to myself, like, Corrupted Mind Palace. I don't know why. It felt like it was going to be a special song. Sometimes you can just know a title and know it's going to be special. And it ended up being awesome. There's some parts in there that I think would have made Chuck very proud to hear. His influence being blessed upon the track. And once again, I think I found some of my favorite parts of this album. Now, don't get me wrong. I love weird, goofy, experimental shit just as much as the next weird, goofy, experimental motherfucker. But I think when it comes down to this album, I enjoyed the parts where they seemed to be more centralized and focused. Corrupted Mind Palace was another one. It was a little bit more technically advanced as far as the songwriting parts go than some of the other tracks that had come before it. And guitar melodies and stuff together, you know, some of those death guitar melodies kind of deal. And it really gave it some cool characteristics. I thought it was a good way. Maybe that could have been the ending track. I'm not going to lie. Maybe that could have been the last track.
I mean, they weren't done with surprises at the end of it.
No.
But, you know, I do think that was like a really cool standout track. And, you know, there were some like other standout moments, but some of them just stand out for being kind of strange. Like the title track opens up with some furious death metal, and it feels like this song kind of like mutates into this fucking creature at a certain point. There's this like kind of single chug breakdown, and they add some extra gurgly effects to the vocals and more spacey noise, and it sounds like some giant tentacled fucking creature that's dripping with slime and drool is just sort of uttering the vocals, and I'm not even sure what he's saying, but it's just creepy, and it's just sort of like an odd, weird transition. But again, it's like a standout moment on here because the song just gets insanely just dark and heavy, and it's kind of like uniquely like a sci-fi kind of horror feel. Like, there's moments in here where it does kind of feel like the same vibe you get from watching like Alien and shit like that.
That tentacle thing you talked about sounds like a Japanese dream, if I may say so myself.
Oh, we're not discussing your dreams on here, man. We can't do that. Definitely going to get demonetized if we go down that road. That slimy, tentacled road.
I don't know. Tentacles are pretty cool.
Now, again, we brought up like very strange transitions, and you know, within the more death metal stuff, there are some really wild transitions, and most of the time they do work, but there are some odd transitions like across musical genres on here. The song Between the Lacunae, that might be how you say that, there is one of the most abrupt musical shifts on the entire album. It pretty much goes from flat out like Morbid Angel, incantation style death metal, like it's heavy, it's fucking chugging along, the riffs are fucking sick, and then it takes this hard shift to Tangerine Dream. We get like Moog synthy and spacey, and it's actually kind of cool. Like,
it worked really well.
Yeah, I mean, it turns into like the actual score of what I feel is like a 70s sci-fi movie or something like that. And it keeps that sort of weird mood going, but in a totally different way. And I don't know, I kind of liked this transition, but that wasn't the only time this did that, and maybe once was kind of enough.
Yeah, I think they tried to go to the well a couple more times, and I don't think the results were as promising as the first time. The interlude after Memory of Death, it was really just a couple minutes of a lot of weird white noise. It just didn't do anything. I don't know what its purpose was. I don't know if you're supposed to take a piss break there. I don't... Ground Control to Major Tom. What the fuck's going on? I don't know. It seemed a little unnecessary. Also, the band title track, Universally Estranged, the final track, also the last couple minutes is really just kind of very similar. Just kind of the same white noise outro. And once again, I'm left asking myself, why? It is not my artistic statement to make. It is theirs, and I just didn't get it. I just didn't get it.
I mean, it almost seems like they were trying to pad out the length, because this album only runs like a little bit over a half an hour, and if you take out this interlude, which is over 3 minutes, and it is way too long for what it is, because it's just essentially a static drum beat and like some spacey cosmic stuff and like a clean guitar with a delay that's in the background. That's about it. There's some other weird noises that pop up, but it goes on too long. And then the end of Universally Estranged, the song, it just sort of like steadily builds in terms of noisiness. Like there's kind of a cool effect for a little bit, like if they kind of tapered off, like faded out on the, you know, initial synth sound, because there's like this weird, I don't know, almost sounds like someone breathing in a spacesuit, but they put like more reverb on it.
Yeah.
If they kind of tapered off at that, I think that probably would have been cool. It'd be actually a really good way to end the album too. It's like, yeah, this kind of fits the whole vibe, but it just goes on too long and it just keeps getting noisier and it kind of just goes off the rails. And I know like off the rails is possibly kind of the idea on this album.
Yeah, it's kind of the calling card of this album, but sometimes it derails itself and it's hard to get back on track.
Yeah.
So let's get right down to it. Let's get down to the business. I'm going to give this album a 3 out of 5. I think this is a good death metal outing. I think it has some cool outside, spacey other elements that make its way into this album. And while not everything on here worked for me personally, I do think that it was a solid album. When they got heavy, they got super heavy. Good fucking death metal grooves. Great riffs. The production at times left a little bit something to be desired, but sometimes that's exactly what you want when it comes to a gritty, filthy metal album. So, yeah, this is a solid outing by these gentlemen. This is the first thing I've ever heard by them. So, definitely worth a spin. I would say 3 out of 5.
I'm going to go with a 3.5. I like this just like a little bit more. When they are like dialed into the death metal aspect, I think they're absolutely fucking awesome. Like, as like off the wall and semi-disorienting as this album can get, it delivers some absolutely crushing riffs and just some amazing death metal brutality and surprisingly some really cool melody. I do think this band may have gone a touch overboard as far as the atmosphere, and I don't know, maybe this band got abducted. That's distinctly possible.
And I'm sorry if they probed you.
Yeah, no, rough go, bud. But I like all the weird themes on here, like the cosmic, spacey horror, like even the album cover is really cool. It kind of looks like I'm about to fight the last boss on every Gradius game, and that game series is awesome, even though it's fucking hard as fuck. But sometimes it is kind of too much, and I feel like some of that extra atmosphere was there to pad out the length of this, because, I don't know, like, there's nothing wrong with, like, trimming off a few minutes of this and making it a little bit more tight. But I think in terms of, like, the bedrock of this band, you know, building their fucking sound, like, they have essentially that same sort of allure as a band like Blood Incantation, albeit they squeeze their songs down to a little bit, you know, tighter runtime. I think there might be room to expand them a little bit, because, I mean, this is some really intensely proggy stuff, and maybe if they had more room to do all this stuff in a song, maybe a lot of the stuff would actually, you know, sound a little bit better. But overall, this is really fucking good. I strongly recommend checking this out. Again, if you're a big fan of bands like Time Ghoul, Blood Incantation, Tomb Mold, Morbid Angel, like, you're going to find a ton of shit you like in here, so definitely check this out.
Well, as sad as it is, this brings us to the end of the review. So, if you like what you saw, please give us a like and subscribe if you are not already subscribed to our channel, because we bring you content pretty much all the time. Nick is a madman, so he wants to bring you content constantly, and that's what we try to do. Also, if you do not know, we are on Patreon. There should be a link down below if you'd like to help a couple chuckleheads out, continue to make metal great again. We appreciate that. Also, if you'd like some of our cool new merch, we have a thrallsofmetal.com website with our merch up on there, and we are working on some new digs as we speak. And last but certainly not least, as always, thank you to each and every one of you that have taken time out of your day to watch us. You are what make it worth it for us. So, thank you times 1,000. On behalf of my metal cohort and myself, we will catch you next time. I need to take a wicked shit because the Taco Bell did not agree with me. And I'll just leave it at that. So, take care now. Bye-bye then.